this person on Twitter, Shabazz Khan, he or she asked two questions. The first one was kind of a joke question, which is, have you seen anything about Half-Life or Portal at Valve? Like, any clues? And
Should have known that would be the first question.
yeah.
So, I can just say I've been working on various things.
Of course.
Yeah, I like at Valve, the beauty is you can work on multiple things and whatever you're interested in, and whoever you want to work with. If they also want to work with you, and you bring something to the table, you can do that. So I'm just working on various things, neither confirm nor deny, sort of thing. I think it would be most useful to talk about my personal experience. That way, I won't have to answer annoyingly.
And the other question they had was, have you worked on any, like, as far as your art goes, has you worked on anything that's like Arctic or like Borealis or anything like that?
Oh, I'm gonna have to give the same response. I'm truly sorry for having done so. But yeah, I worked on like
That's fine.
Steam Autumn Sale and like Winter Sale, the awards, like those trophy skins, the Steam Awards skins on all those trophies. I did one of the skins for that. So we had to make like a tessellating pattern to fit the theme of the award. So that kind of thing is my strength. And also getting into writing and like and editing and stuff. So yeah, it's really a good place if you're interested in many different things, um and yeah, it's like the power that comes with that is a little bit overwhelming because you're free to work on anything. So it's almost paralyzing because it's like, oh my gosh, I have so many things to do, so many opportunities, possibilities. But like I feel like also a total edge case, like a total outlier, because I came to game development through a totally circuitous and winding path, and the likelihood of people who are listening to this finding a job that's equal to or better than mine right now is much greater because I started out in at a very unlikely position. Um, I started out as a proposal writer and like technical writer for um, an IT contractor for the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. So, like doing some web design, I took night classes in web design because I wanted to get into that to skill up. And so,
Oh, how'd you find those classes?
it was in Northern Virginia, and I think I Googled like learn HTML and CSS. Like it was something dumb like that, and I found like the ACE program. It's what it's called. It's just like night classes for adult learning, like learning annex type thing. And I went on Saturdays, and because I'm not a good self teacher, like it's hard for me to teach myself things. So I need a classroom setting. Like I need a more formal thing. So I spent 10 years at that IT contractor doing graphic design and technical writing and proposal writing and web design and copy editing. So
Wow.
kind of I've been preparing my whole life for where I am right now, like getting into all sorts of things because I just can't help it. Like I feel like I have things to contribute to all these different areas. And fortunately people have agreed with me sometimes. A lot of times they I've come across areas where I truly don't belong and I realize that. But I just try to play to my strengths and learn in areas where I have aptitude and interest and something that's needed. Um, and also doing art on the side, like just doing digital art. Like one of the first pieces I tried to like I wanted to make something that would go viral. Like I saw like someone do I mean, I was just always in awe of like cat art on the internet basically. It sounds really dumb, but cat art, like it's something that's so uh in the zeitgeist. Like this was like 7 years ago when cats began to take over the internet. And I was watching Orphan Black and I was like, what if the cast of Orphan Black were cats? Like, what if it was just like cats dressed up in all the Orphan Black sisters outfits? And so I did that, and that went kind of viral because I tweeted at like the actors and like the official show accounts on social media. So that kind of went viral. So I started doing that over and over again for like Parks and Recreation cats and like Game of Thrones cats. I did Game of Sits. So that and like Orange is the New Black cats and like Stranger Things cats. If you Google those things, you can see what I mean. But that's where I sort of got a sense that if you like kind of tap into like you kind of hack into the human brain when you do things with cute and endearing and charming characters where people it's almost like this limbic reaction. They have to share it or click it or like it or whatever. And it seems really cheap and bad and cheesy to say it in those terms, but like it's just finding a need on the internet that's not been fulfilled and like creating something that fills this need. Like if you like two different things, mash them up. Like mashup culture is the best because there's nothing new under the sun. So the only way to create something new is by combining two or three or multiple things. So the template is like it's like blank but with blank. Like that's my favorite thing. I think that's a good way to create novel things.
Yeah, I posted a link on the chat from. I just did a search and found one of your tweets. It probably wasn't the most viral of your tweets, but it was like the first result.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
I remember seeing those from you, and it was after I met you, and I was like, "What? I did not know that you were like famous on the internet for this."
Oh God, it feels really bad. It feels so bad. But like I feel like I'm the least competent person in this chat right now, because everyone just by being here and listening to this right now, you have more aptitude and you're on a better trajectory than I was.
Oh, especially for students in art school.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, you're set up from the beginning. I majored in English and business, like then I did like web games with my friends on the side. So I'd always been into video games, but I never fathomed that you could make a career in it. Because even 10 years ago, the knowledge and the information was just not out there. It wasn't as wildly accessible as it is today. You could just learn everything on YouTube if you wanted to. It may not be the best way, but yeah, being in a formal program for that is like you're miles ahead of where I was. Yeah.
So Ian asked in chat, can you talk about how you worked on games with your friends during that time?
Yeah. So like the best way I've found is just to like your friends are naturally going to share interests with you because you like doing the same things and you find the same things funny. So like if your friend has a different skill set from you, even if it's slightly different, you can like come together and make something cool. If you're a creative person at all, I'm sure you're already doing this. But one of the first games I made was called Dingle Fling, and it was about a long-haired cat. And I won't go into it, but it is a scatological game. There there are dingles being flung. You, the player, control where it lands. So I think it's like still on my kittycassandra.com site, which is like this ancient bad site. My first like site. But I think one of the tabs is Dingle Fling. So it's still playable and it looks like absolute shit. And so it's still out there. But then when I found Northern Virginia and the DC area to be like the jobs there were not great. Like it didn't have the creative freedom that I was looking for, and the type of work I was doing consisted of designing infographics and like writing newsletters. And so I moved out to Seattle, and I found people that liked making games as much as I did, and I didn't find that in DC. Maybe I just wasn't looking hard enough. But coming to Seattle has been like a whole new world because there are people that share an interest in gaming and making art. And Portland is even better on the art side of things. Like the Portland Indie Game Squad is my favorite. But yeah, just finding a community of people who enjoy making things together on their free time. They find that fun. That's the best.
Yeah, I often tell people like to get in the habit of just making the stuff as well, and that seems to be the main industry wisdom right now too.
Yeah, because that's what's going to get you hired is that you make a thing and it is great in its own right. Like, however, like uh, it's going to be small scale because it's probably going to be a small team of you and your friends or just you. But if it's a great thing or it goes viral or it's well regarded or shared by the right people or you submit it with an application and people see that, that's your portfolio. That's your golden ticket. If you make something great that immediately strikes people.
Yeah, and one of the things that I hope students are seeing from a lot of these AMAs is that many of these professionals spend years trying to break into the industry, and so you like be just getting into the rhythm of just working on stuff when you can, and never like instead of dreaming about making stuff, go ahead and make it, and that'll help a long way towards like being in it for the long haul of preparing yourself for the career and everything like that.
I especially had to, whether I knew it or not during that time, I was just grinding it out, like with the day job, like an office day job that didn't have anything to do with gaming, but it kind of had some, like, it was like gaming adjacent, like it had some web stuff and like some creating art assets for infographics. So, like, skills that you can apply to games, but I'm doing that as my day job, um, for an IT contractor. Like, even if you just work in IT, that'll set you up with, like, the soft skills that you'll need to, like, be easy to work with and know what it's like to recognize in another person, "Oh, I like their style of working with people," like, people like to work with them, they're very respectful, and when they disagree, it's in the best interest of the project, and they do it tactfully, and here's the reason why I don't agree with this, and here's how we can make it better, constructive criticism. So just like generally learning to work with people is a very important skill, and just being respectful and good at what you do. Um, and Yeah, just soft skills are very important, and you can pick those up in any day job, really. Um,
So Axiom, I'll let you finish.
like having the goal of going directly into games, into the game industry, is a little bit rare, I guess, unless your student project is like outstanding. But I think, yeah, like especially at Valve, because Valve only hires like pretty much senior people who've been in and not even necessarily games, but doing anything in a way that's unique and demonstrates creativity and unconventional thinking and multidisciplinary thinking. If you're a Renaissance person, that's really valuable. If you're good at multiple things, but also really good at one thing. If you're T-shaped, that's a good thing.
Yeah, I remember hearing Valve say that they don't hire anyone unless they have like what 5 years industry experience.
Yeah. Hmm.
And like I critique Valve a lot for their like organizational design, and I'm like, I don't know if that's the best way to make a company, but I'm like, whatever, it's their company, let them design it how they want.
Mm. Yes. When you make your company, you do it how you like.
So Axiom posted in chat asking, how did you end up at Valve, and what major work have you done there so far that you can point to?
Yeah, I ended up at Valve through a very unusual path. Well, maybe, I don't know. What I recommend is if you see Valve or another game company that you like talking at like a conference or like they're coming to your organization to give a talk, go to that talk, and after the talk to the talker. Meet the person who's giving the talk and introduce yourself and say, here's my portfolio, and follow up with an email to them, get their email, and just write a very short email showing your portfolio, because long-winded emails will get lost in the shuffle because they meet a lot of people. But whoever's representing the company you're interested in, definitely meet them. And if they're in your city, that helps a lot. If a video game company is based in a city that you're not in, um, relocation is a hard sell. Companies like to see that you're in the same city that they are. So Seattle's great if you just in terms of the number of companies that are located in Seattle. So the piece of advice I would give to you is that just go to those talks, like whenever a company's talking. At GDC, I met um, a fella at Valve, and so we were trying to get advice about our indie game, and he saw the art for our indie game, and he thought it might be usable at Valve somewhere. Um, And so not just my art, but like my writing and my just the decisions I was making. Um and so I've been working on Steam stuff, like Steam sale art. Um and Yeah, that's what I would say. That's my biggest piece of advice is meet the people that you um idolize and who came to talk to you. They came to reach out to the community. So make it worth their while because they've come to meet you and they want to meet, the up and coming generation of people who are going to be the stars of this industry. And I think that's who is listening to me right now. You're the future. So just take all the opportunities that you can and network among your friends. Like if there's, yeah, a SIG or a Seattle Indies is a great group that I was involved in.
Yeah, Terrence mentioned that last week, and I'm kind of worried that so far almost all of our speakers have been from Seattle. I'm kind of worried that people are like Seattle, 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 we're not the center of the world, but yeah.
No, we're not. By no means are we. But yeah, I'm just talking to my experience and
Right. It basically communities of support and like local meetup groups and networking in your area can make a really big impact.
totally, totally. And there are group, indie studios that are in the middle of nowhere and they have tremendous success. And maybe that's near your town or your town has a few companies that you're having your eye on. But yeah. And I've heard success stories of people just knocking on the door of a studio and going in and saying, I think I could help out in this area. Would you be interested? So just literally knocking on doors is a thing that I've heard more than once working.
Yeah, people, I guess there's like a balance to it. Like on one hand, when you meet someone, you don't want to have your entire like relationship with them be defined by you trying to get a job. But on the other hand, I think a lot of people just never ask, and that's also like not good.
Right. It's truly a balance. Yeah. Like it's better if they come to you. Like if they've seen your work and they come to you, that's like a total pie in the sky thing. Like if you make something good enough that it gets noticed in that way, that's a total dream. But yeah, you're probably going to have to meet someone or apply to something, um, and make your stuff as presentable as possible. Like don't like if the website is older looking or has bad design. Like even if you're not a graphic designer, just get a template or something because the website is like often the first impression that art directors or people in gaming see. And so, yeah, just take a look at like Squarespace has good templates. Like even something like that is a good way to present yourself because even if it's a solid game but the presentation is bad, that can turn people off or just not make your stuff shine in the way that it should be. But yeah, that's another piece of advice.
So Liam asked in chat, when it comes to high-profile studios such as Valve, how significant is the impact of references? / did you know any past, present employees at Valve?
I met my connection at GDC. So basically, like conferences and conventions um, and any meetup where industry professionals are is just put yourself in the right place at the right time, as well as applying places. I don't know the percentage of how people find their way into the gaming industry via either path, but from my own personal experience, yeah.
Yeah, just to mention earlier about the question of what you worked on. I remember you posting about the artwork that you did for the was it the holiday sales?
Yeah, it was the autumn sale and the winter sale.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I had to create art for each day of the sale, and so yeah, it's I don't want to go into it too much because I'll just get into the weeds really quick. But
did it? I'm just kind of curious. Did it remind you of the contract work that you did before for the government?
it did because with the government position, I was afforded pretty much a lot of trust and freedom in what I was doing because of my portfolio, I guess, or what. I don't know why they gave me such a high degree of freedom, but I was able to kind of take it in a direction that I wanted, and working with other people, of course, collaborating with other people, and always sharing what you're thinking. So you're not off in your own corner doing what you think is best. You're always like openly sharing where you are in the process and what you're thinking. So you can have like iterative feedback from multiple people because you don't have a boss. So you're just trying to manage what you're doing yourself and just get the input of people who know way more than you and trusting them and taking their feedback gracefully and having no ego, basically, just having um, no personal connection to your work, although it's your baby, but just be very ready to gracefully say, "Oh yeah, that is a good point. I'll make that edit," or "Thanks for that. I never saw it that way," because they have so much more experience than you, likely, um, even if it's in your area of expertise. And a new set of eyes will always find something you haven't been able to see. Um, so yeah.
So Axiom asked, have you done any artwork for any of Valve's games yet that you can talk about, or can you not talk about that?
I cannot. No, sorry.
So you said that the general structure at Valve is there's a lot of projects you're kind of free to decide what you get to work on. Um, and I've always been curious about like how does that actually work? Because I imagine there's tasks that like are unpopular and like how do they get done and all that.
It's oh man, that's a good question. I mean, it's just like at any company, like whoever wants to accumulate goodwill. If you want to accumulate some good karma, take on the task that nobody wants to do, especially if you're starting out. Like,
Be a good team player.
yeah, totally. Take one for the team. And whatever you do, do it in a fantastic way and with a good attitude, and people will notice. My grandfather told me someone is always watching. And that was such good advice because whether you think they are or not, like people um, are going to talk about you. And not in a bad way. Like make it not in a bad way. Like make them say, "Man, he's awesome at that thing. He really did such a good job." Like, did you see what he did? Did you see what they're doing? So yeah, just take like have no ego. Be very humble, and I'm learning that. I mean, I'm not learning.
That's cool.
It's just how I operate because I feel like a total imposter everywhere I go. So yeah, just make yourself useful and um, yeah, be respectful and good to work with.
How long have you been at Valve?
Um, I've been at Valve for oh man, since like April.
Oh, cool. So like right after GDC.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm a total baby at Valve. Yeah, still learning. But with the government thing, it taught me to just if you like make yourself irreplaceable or take on things um that you're interested in and that you know that you can bring something good to, then try to do that thing. Um,
So you brought up how right now you still feel a little bit like an imposter. Was there ever a point where you feel like you've made it in the industry, or have you not felt that yet?
I don't think I'll ever feel that way because there will always be someone who's better than you. Let's just face it. There's always someone better than you. So it's just a question of are you happy doing what you're doing, and do you feel you're doing a good job at it? Because like even the people who are like really good at their jobs, they're going to have weaknesses. And at Valve, people are really open about like it's kind of like a best idea wins thing. Like no matter how senior you are, if someone has a note or like a way to improve something, um, just like obliquely like say like, "Oh, would it be better this way?" or like, "Have we tried this thing?" And so people are really good about um yeah, just I have to get back to imposter syndrome topic. But yeah, maybe in a few years I will feel not that way. But yeah.
I also wonder like I know a lot of people talk about imposter syndrome as something that discourages them and like hurts, like it makes them refuse to take steps that would otherwise help their careers. But I also wonder if there's a plus side to it, like maybe being unsure of yourself means you work harder or you're at least second guessing your stuff, and like maybe there's a good balance in there as well.
Totally. The positive side of it is that you can ask for feedback and don't be afraid to ask the dumb question because that other person might not have seen it at that level of dumbness. They they might not have chosen to examine it at that basal fundamental level at which I am operating. Um, so don't be afraid to ask the dumb questions because you're fearing being found out. Um,
Oh yeah, definitely.
like just because that'll hurt you in the end if you make assumptions that aren't true or don't understand something fundamentally or had a miscommunication.
If you
In the interest of communication, like frame it that way. Like,
Yeah, that's a really good way of looking at it. And another thing that I noticed that you, as you said, like if you really want to feel like an imposter, then you should like sneak around and hide, like by not asking questions. Yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
that's something I've been very aware of lately. Is how do I not let myself sneak around? Like just get the guts to show that I'm not knowledgeable of whatever thing or that I missed whatever thing that I was expected not to miss.
Yeah, totally, totally. And it's all in the interest of communication, like just trying to get us on the same page, that kind of framing is good. Um, just so I'm understanding. That's another good prefix before a thing you say. or and people are always learning, like don't assume that someone knows something because they might not know the thing. Like they might need to watch a YouTube video or do a quick Google. Like I think we ascribe more knowledge to people than they have. We put people on pedestals and they um
Yeah, and these are some of the soft skills that you said earlier that you learned at your non-game jobs. And so it's like I always tell people, like get the most out of whatever work you get, even if it's not in games. Like it can really make an impact in your career.
mhm,
Like just as a skills point of view.
mhm. Yeah. I did some like a little bit of project management and leading projects, and there you get a real sense of communication and how important that is. It sounds really squishy and um, like in the 90s, there was a really good article lately about the new soft skills, like how they've been denigrated, and because in the 90s it was like one guy's job to like schmooze and to be the HR guy, like this like fuzzy feelings type thing, and it got kind of a bad reputation among engineers, like, but now it's getting more respect because everyone needs soft skills. It's like it's not just one guy's job to boost morale or um like motivate people. It's kind of everyone's job to be good to work with and have soft skills. I forget the article. I'll have to send it to you.
I saw a tweet that was joking something somewhere along that lines. It was like a half joke because like they're like 10 years ago, everyone in tech was talking about like really hard technical problems, like how do we do this? How do we invent this? Nowadays, everyone's talking about how do we act as better employees? How do we solve HR and communicate better? Like that's where the biggest problems are now. It's not necessarily like profession like related stuff.
Yeah, people like the 90s were a giant lesson in like how to avoid the grind. Like I feel like back then the attitude was martyrdom and glamorizing martyrdom and having no life was a good thing, but now people are beginning to realize how deleterious that is to your health and to your personal relationships. So like yeah, work-life balance is becoming more and more prioritized, which I'm loving. Well, there are always exceptions to that, but I think generally people are at least more mindful of it um, in tech, especially as like in gaming. It's never been better and it's never been worse. Like there have never been more opportunities and interest, but also never more competition. So as companies try to attract talent, those those kinds of quality of life things are going to be more important and valued by companies because they can exploit people as quietly too. Like now people are talking openly about exploitative companies and practices. Um, so
Yeah, and it's
it's anymore.
yeah, it's really. I also just really love that whole conversation because, as a job seeker, like even if you don't think it's relevant to know about like hiring practices or companies like management problems, it can still like it can be a little both discouraging and encouraging. Like it's encouraging in the sense of if you don't get a job or if a job isn't that great, like it helps a lot to know like, well, maybe that's the company's fault. Like maybe it's not their fault. Maybe it's not all on them. As like when you're first starting out, you tend to accept a lot of stuff at face value, even if you shouldn't. And you like that's why historically the games industry has had such a big problem with crunch. Like people starting their careers see it as normal when they shouldn't.
Mm, absolutely. Yeah, that's how I got into proposal writing in DC. Like all these people, all these IT companies competing for government work, they want to bid at the lowest price and have um, the most bang for your buck. And writing proposals to convey that, like they exploit these fresh out of college students, i.e., me. You had to work evenings and weekends, and um, just writing proposal after proposal, and it was a total grind. And if you didn't come in on the weekend, that was seen as like this huge thing. Like if someone asserted themselves. um, but yeah, that was really toxic. But that's just DC, I guess.
So Axiom has a question that I'm kind of interested in as well. So I'm just gonna read it. It's a little long.
Sure.
I understand if you don't want to answer this question, so it's fine if you don't answer. But people at Valve often say they do things based upon what their customers want and the feedback that is given. So if that's true, why does Valve seem to have no interest in single-player games anymore? Because it seems a lot of customers want more single-player games from Valve. Hard question that I don't really expect an answer to, but I thought I'd give it a try.
Mm, mm. That is a really good question. I wish I could answer it competently, but I don't feel that I would probably bungle it up if I were to attempt to answer that. But if Valve gives a talk in your neighborhood, I think they could be able to answer that question. I just don't want to bungle it up. Sorry.
That's probably the safe answer.
Yeah. Yes.
But I have been thinking about that as well, and I'm just like curious to maybe hear from people who have been at Valve for like really many number of years, just to like get a sense of like how has the company changed over time. And like usually the sense in Valve is like you said, there's a lot of projects you can choose what to work on, but if that's true, if you can choose what to work on, like how does that translate to say game projects? And also like how do larger projects get greenlit? And all like I'm just like very curious about how things even work there, how decisions get made, and also just how the companies just things have changed over time. But I understand it like if first of all if you can't talk about it, oh, and also you just like you haven't been there for like a decade, so yeah.
The first cause is the second thing. Yeah.
Yeah, you haven't been there for like a decade.
No, and I can't speak to how it was, but I think yeah, it's based on interest basically, like just critical mass, like how many people are interested in this thing or think it's a good idea to do and we think we can do it well. Um, and that's about all I know. um,
Yeah, it might even be good to if you really want to get to know a certain company, especially if you aspire to work there, to look up interviews that they have done around. That was actually a strategy that I had that I believe a friend told me. Like I forget the company. It might have been Blizzard even. But this person just really wanted to work there, and they just ate up every single interview that they could find about the developers, and they gained so much knowledge, and they even started to think like them. It was kind of creepy. But like that might be a good way to like satisfy and
have spoken about this and written about this on the internet, who are not me. So yeah, there are some.
Yeah, and that as a strategy is something that I've been trying to get better at too. Like I have another friend who, like, every time we enjoy like a really good piece of art, like whether it's like a movie or a game or like a TV show, like I will just like find him looking up interviews with the creators, and I'm like, oh, this is great stuff. And like I need to think to do that more, like just hear from the people who made your favorite stuff.
Yeah, like for Kentucky Route Zero, like I never would have expected that they reference like stagecraft in making the game. These very unexpected things you could only find by just deep diving into what the things you're passionate about, the media that you love. How did it get to be so great? Like, what did they reference? Because nothing's created in a vacuum. They were in a soup too of things that they loved, and they combined 2 or 3 or 4 things that they only 4. You can't combine 5 things. No, I'm just kidding. Combine things that they like. Also, I saw a thing from Axiom um, that Valve or other companies might not come to your area. And I feel this so much because I was in a small town in Virginia, and that's why I didn't think I could ever get into games or even like a truly creative career, because like it didn't seem accessible or at all possible because I wasn't in the right place. So it just took some time for me to like save up enough to go to a conference. And like the first conference I ever went to was SIGGRAPH. And even though I went, yeah, with my ex-husband. So there I learned like that art and tech are not so different after all. Like they really can interact in a cool way.
Yeah, so for those who don't know what SIGGRAPH is, it's I believe the ACM Special Interest Group of Graphics. Is that right?
I think so.
And it's also just like this industry famous event for like animation and like the blend. You see a lot of videos every time SIGGRAPH happens. It's like among industry circles, videos go viral of like amazing research projects and like creative projects. Like I remember one year, I believe the year that Frozen came out, Pixar showed some incredible like physics driven snow animations. And like that's the kind of like crazy like advanced tech plus really creative stuff that you tend to see there.
Yeah, it's really cool, the talks and the people that are there. They get really good speakers. Like I saw the leads team at DreamWorks talk about the Croods, and I know that was such a huge hit. The CROODS. It was like about cavemen, but I got to see them talk about that, and I was like, I got to hear about the next big like DreamWorks movie, but to hear them talk about, they didn't even talk about the technical side too much, but it's just such a good environment to like marinate in that conference. But like anyway, don't let being in a small town or a remote place or somewhere where gaming isn't, like the gaming industry isn't, discourage you from trying to work toward that goal. And it takes years. Like I grew up very poor with a single mom in a small town, and it only took years, like 10 years of grinding it out. But it makes it all the more satisfying when you do get there. And it was such an unlikely path for me. So just like do your best, and yeah, that's all I can say.
Yeah, I think a lot of people tend to have unlikely paths in the industry. It's kind of like having an unlikely path is kind of the most likely path.
I like that. Yes, totally.
And that's like anything that you can do to maximize your odds helps, like going out to a conference or making stuff, talking to whoever you can. It's all about maximizing those odds.
And maybe if you go on meetup.com, there's like in your town, there's like a group of weirdos that you might like to hang out with, and just put yourself out there, however small the town, however unlikely it is.
I've heard of meetups that even like organize to get buses together, to get people from neighboring towns to attend. Like I believe the IGDA Finland chapter does that.
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah.
I might be wrong. I might be wrong about which chapter did that, but I think it was them.
Mm. Yeah, like the more experiences you have, the more people you meet, the bigger your network will be, and the more used to putting yourself out there you are. Yeah.
So we have two questions from Axiom that we kind of stepped over. The first one was at Valve, you get to decide what you work on every day. So what goes into your decision making when you work on a project? There are probably so many cool projects at Valve. What influences your decisions personally?
Hmm. Well, it's like partially like where do they need help? Where have you heard needs help? Because a lot of it's like talking to people and seeing what's needed, um, and if people have got it under control, you don't want to like step on any toes. So you're like, oh, okay, they got it under control. So if another area needs help, they'll call on you. Like it's a mix of being interested and like both keys of the submarine have to turn. You have to be interested and they have to be interested in you. So um, that's mainly it. Like that's just the raw mechanic of how that works.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other question was, when is the next Steam Dev Days? That might be. Do you think it's a good event for students to attend?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I really don't know.
I don't know either. I miss Steam Dev Days every time it happens, and I'm always like, "What? It happened?" And
Yeah, I was watching the old talks, and like one of the guys that I am in a meeting with, like, was one of the talkers, and I was like, oh my god, he's famous. Yeah. Um, yeah.
so I just looked it up, and it looks like their next one is in October in Seattle.
Oh, rad.
Don't they? Do they have this like multiple times a year, like in different locations? I don't know if they do.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Um, I'm not involved with that, so I'll speak out of turn if I try to say anything. I'll mix something up.
I'm also not sure, but you may have to be like an official developer somehow to attend. But like I might be making stuff up. But yeah, it is something good to look into. Like any opportunities that you can get, just vet them out.
More competently on that. Yeah.
Yeah, this year Axiom. Wait a minute. No, it's not this year. The website says 2016.
Oh, dang.
Did they not have one in 2017?
I'm not sure.
We're all lost.
It's worth a Google. Yeah. But if there's no info, yeah.
Okay, so we're almost out of time. We have like 7+ minutes left. We started a little late, but I also want to respect your time. If this is a good time to ask any last questions.
Yeah. This is a good use of my time. I like talking to folks. Yeah.
This is kind of a general question that I kind of like to ask everyone, which is, do you have any future career goals at this point?
Future career goals. Just to learn more about the technical side, because I'm not a technical artist, so that's a big gap that I could fulfill. But it's just at the cost of like doing things that I can do, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
sacrificing easy wins for learning, like putting your time into learning a thing. Yeah. So that's a big thing, just to skill up. I think that's everyone's goal. But
Yeah, it seems like a lot of people, like their goals are to learn a little bit of other people's careers. like you have your profession of choice, but then like everyone seems to get a craving to learn other people's skills and like adopt them into their work.
yeah, because who doesn't want to be like the Swiss Army knife, you know?
Yeah, I feel like most of GDC, like 2 years ago, like the running theme of GDC was, wouldn't it be great if so and so profession took learnings from this other profession, and like
Yeah, yeah. I'm just not as like that gets to the eternal debate of like nature versus nurture, like aptitude versus attitude. Like if you really apply yourself, you can learn anything. But the barrier for me was just I didn't fancy myself bad at math. Like I actually am bad at math. Like I tried as much as I could, but it's almost to the extent that I am like innumerate, like illiterate, but like I just have trouble with numbers.
Uh-huh.
It's just a weakness of mine that I'm aware of. Um, but maybe if I spent less time drawing and more time practicing math, I would be in a different place. But it's just where you put your skills and where you put your time practicing things. So
Yeah, it's like a skill tree.
absolutely, like I wouldn't be here if I was spending time being better, learning programming.
I'm looking. I usually like look for game jams to like mess around with weird stuff. Like I remember some game jams ago, I didn't know anything about like networking, and I'm like, I want to make something that's networked, and like I did it in all the wrong ways. Like like if you as a programmer wanted to make a Unity project that has multiplayer in it, you would just use some off-the-shelf system, like the one that's provided in Unity. But at the time, like working with a bunch of web developers, and like we're gonna make a server and we're gonna like send calls to it and have the right program on the server that does these things. And it was like it's the wrong way, but because it was a game jam, like we embraced failure in a way, and it let us goof off in that way. And like
Sure.
yeah, and another tactic I use is depending on a jam, I might work alone specifically so that I can goof off even more and not feel bad if I'm like letting my team down.
The ultimate freedom to let yourself down.
Yeah, and that way you can really learn something like radically new and not feel like you're like hurting the team because you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah. That is the ultimate freedom. Yes.
Any more questions?
Are you going to GDC, Livio?
I am.
Yes.
I make it a point to go every year, and I've talked a lot about like whether or not it's a good like return on investment kind of thing, and I'm like, I don't know if it is, but I go because I want to, and I just really like it. I will save up my money all year for it.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Yeah, it's a pretty penny, but yeah, it's worth it just for the connections, man. Yeah.
I still want to figure out if I'm going to go via plane or train.
Oh man, the train jam would be awesome. That makes me wish I was in Chicago.
There's a little Facebook group amongst Seattle people trying. It's like not really a group. It's like we should have made it a chat, but someone made it a group instead. But like we're thinking like, can we take a train from Seattle to San Francisco and
Our own train jam.
yeah, it's a 24-hour trip, and it's like starts early in the morning and then arrives early in the morning the next day. It's not like a 3-day jam like the Chicago one is. That plan is very slow to get off the ground.
Maybe next year.
It might not happen. Yeah.
Oh man.
1 minute left.
1 minute. The clock's running out.
You didn't talk much about your time at Spite House.
Oh yeah. At Spite House, we're developing an indie game. That's the thing we were trying to get advice on from this Valve representative that we met with, and yeah, we're still in the process of developing it, and just looking for help from developers because we all come from a film and TV background with a great interest in video games, but we're just so busy with video editing and graphic design, our day jobs, that it's hard for us to learn those things like in a way that's not dangerous.
So how did Spite House work? Did you all maintain day jobs and then start this little company on the side to work on this?
Yes, yeah, just in order to pay the rent and make a living wage, we couldn't quit our jobs. Um, but yeah, it's still in process. It's just taking a while. Time is the thing that has to slip. Um, but yeah, we'll get there. But it's very enjoyable though, to have a passion project on the side that we can all work together on.
Axiom asked, have you ever talked to Gabe at Valve? Like, have you ever spoken to the senior leadership of the company? Like, I don't know how common that would be, like meet the actual CEO and founder of a company.
Hmm. It's more common at Valve for the senior leadership to be more open and present than at other companies, I think. This is what I've heard. So
Uh-huh.
I've had the opportunity to speak with senior people, and I see Gabe around every so often. Yeah,
Oh, neat.
yeah, it's really cool.
When I was at Microsoft, I saw the CEO Satya Nadella pretty often, but it was always at some kind of event that he was there. Like he never just like roamed around the company. It's just too big of a company. But like he would have like a recurring company. What was it called? It's basically like an AMA.
Wow.
But yeah, and he would host it at different sites around the company, like different offices, and it would be through video. And one time he came to our part of the campus.
Oh boy.
I also just like every now and then, like they have their hackathons and their other big event showcases, and so he's usually around there. It's kind of funny, it sounds so much more laid back, but like at Microsoft, honestly, he came across as like the busiest guy I've ever seen. Like he's surrounded by aides who are like taking notes and stuff.
And an entourage. I bet
Yeah.
he's super busy. The size of that company, man.
Yeah.
Valve is relatively small, so I think that's why that is. It's a pretty small company.
Microsoft has departments that are way bigger than many companies.
Sure. Yeah, they used to have those at the IT contractor I worked for called town halls. So you would just into this video conference call. Yeah.
Are there any managers at Valve at all? Like, are there people who just specialize in management who work at Valve or not?
I mean, to an extent, everyone has that responsibility. But if someone feels the need to impose
order.
Yeah. Anyone can do that. Like if you feel like you have a good sense of things and direction, and you have everyone's buy-in, pretty much anyone's free to do that. So yeah, it's just a matter of who wants to take on the mantle.
Cool. Looks like we're out of time.
All right.
Thanks a lot for talking with us.
Yeah, thank you for asking me questions and taking time out of your busy days. So I really appreciate your listening, and yeah, send me an email if you have any other questions or.
Yeah, feel free to post your contact on the Discord chat.
Yes, cool. Okay, I'll send.
Also, good luck to everyone doing Global Game Jam this weekend.
Yes, good luck, everyone. Yes, happy jamming, and I will see you around.
See ya. Have a good weekend.
All right, you too. Have a good one.